Welcome to Heartcraftpaper. My name is Monica, and I'm so glad that you can join me today. Hi everyone, Monica here for Heartcraftpaper. I'm so glad that you can join me for today's special event. We have a 1,000 viewer hop, and this is for Men's Kitchen. Congratulations, and I'm so proud and happy for you. Hopefully we can make it on my channel sometime soon, and I do appreciate all the support from all the viewers. Enjoy the hop, enter for your chance to win, and I hope you enjoy the little video for our little pop-up. Have fun. All right, for today's project, I've got this cute little image set of snowmans called Fa La La, and this is from the Greeting Farm. This is from their newest release. I'm really happy to kind of be showcasing this for a little bit. We're going to be utilizing this to make today's pop pivot card. And we're going to be using Lawn Fawn dies for the pop pivot. So the reason that I picked the Lawn Fawn dies is because of the ease of use. I don't have to measure anything out or cut. It's already pre-done. Now I'm going to be using these three little guys, and I will tell you why later on in the video. We're going to start with our coloring. I started off with the B000, which is one of the lightest that you'll find in the blue hues. Now the reason why I chose this color is because it's snow. They're snowmen. They're not necessarily going to have a lot of grays. And when you look at snow and in the sunlight, it actually reflects a blue. So that's why I picked this. Okay. Now, as you can see, it's very light. We're going to add a little bit more color to this by adding in B000. I'll be fast forwarding through some of this because of time constraints. All right, now to add some color to our images. I am going to be going with a lighter set of colors, more of a pastel color. And the reason being that I chose a color for my print that is actually fairly light in pastels as well, a pastel Christmas. So I'm gonna keep that theme and use some of those same colors throughout these images as well. Okay, so this next little guy doesn't really follow through with the color palette that is on the paper that I chose, but that's okay. It is still a pastel, and I do want to keep those light colors, and I figured green would be perfect for this little guy. For whatever reason, that hat just reminds me of a lumberjack hat. So greens and reds usually kind of go in place of that. So I figured this would be the perfect color for him. Okay, the last little guy, I put in some blue greens or aqua colors. And the reason for that is because we already have quite a bit of blue in the body. So I figured I'd just kind of tint it with a little bit of green, and that would be perfect. And as a matter of fact, it matched the paper that I chose as well. Okay, with our images now done, we're ready to start fussy cutting our images. This set in particular, I didn't see had any dies, but that's okay. That's what a pair of scissors is for. Just remember that when you're fussy cutting, you want to give yourself a 1/8 inch border. Okay, now that we're done, let's take a look at these little guys. I just absolutely adore the images. Okay, so I went back and stamped out 3 little trees. That is one of the stamps that comes with the set. I wanted these as a supporting image to my card. I'm coming in with YG41 and YG43, and then I also have E33 for the trunk. So let's go ahead and move on past this, and we'll get started. All right, here we have the set of Lawn Fawn dies. Now the first one that I'm going to show you, which is this larger piece, it is the pop pivot mechanism. It does score, and I will show you how that works later on. Next, I have the hills, and these actually fit right onto the panel that we have here. And this is the actual panel piece itself. This does have score lines as well as cut lines. So here I have already cut out the pop pivot piece. And as you can see, the score lines right in the center as well as along horizontally. Okay, and I'm going to show you how this folds up as we go along. Next are the panel pieces. And here, as you can see, it does have the score line in the center to allow for easy folding. And that just kind of goes one over the other. Next, we have the hills. And again, these fit right onto that panel piece, and they're perfectly cut to fit that panel piece. You can see that it has that rounded edge on the corner. It also has detailed stitching, which is something that I really like, all this little stitching detail. And it also has a little score line. That's also to help with the folding. The first thing that I'm going to work is my panel piece. I want to make sure that I adhere this down. I like using liquid glue rather than double-sided tape for this because I want to make sure that it is stable. I don't want it coming apart. I've tried it with double-sided tape before and it just kind of falls apart. So what I'm going to do is add glue to both of the tabs, and then I'm going to piece them together. Okay, so this is kind of going to go interlocking. As you can see, just twist and set them together so that the tabs are in the back of each panel. Line them up carefully and then press down. We're going to go ahead and set this aside to dry for a minute because I want it to set very well. Okay, on the front panel, I'm going to be using this sentiment, the Fa La La, and I'm going to stamp that all over the front panel. I'm going to be using a black ink, and I like using the Tuxedo Black of, what is it, Simon Says Stamp, because it is alcohol resistant, and it also does a very good job of just saturating color onto my stamp and then onto the paper. Now once I finish here, I'm going to bring in a little bitty star that is also a part of the stamp set. I want to make sure I fill in a little bit of those blank spaces. So you're probably wondering why I'm leaving such a huge blank space on the left. Well, that's because I have this beautiful strip of paper that I was telling you about that has the candy canes, peppermints, and a couple of stars. So this fit this perfectly. I wanted to make sure that the colors on the snowman kind of matched this as well. So we're going to go ahead and adhere this down onto the left side. All right, we're ready to move on. I'm bringing in some Distress Oxide, and this is going to go all along the bottom of my paneling piece for the pop pivot. I'm going to blend it in all along the bottom. Now, one of the reasons that I'm using the blending brush compared to my blending tool is because of the amount that I want to get. I want it to be more of a gentle blend in rather than a harsh and more saturated coloring. So once we finish doing all the blending here, we're going to go ahead and add our little hilts. Basically what I'm doing is laying this out first so I know where I want to put those little trees. This will help as I go through and glue them because I want them to be behind the snowdrift instead of on top of. So I think this is where I'm going to put my first little tree. Just got to get some glue there while I hold everything down at the same time, and sometimes this can get a little tricky. All right, once I have this done, I'm going to go ahead and repeat the process on the other side. And as you can see, I'm kind of putting trees on both extremes of the card. And there is a reason for that, just because I want to be able to dry your eye out from the center of the card all the way along this long panel piece. I'm also going to be using the snowmen as little placeholders as I go through. I have that last little tree, but I just don't know where I want to put it. So I'm going to set them in place just kind of as placeholders so I can visualize where things are going to go. Initially, when I started this project, I had an idea and an image of what I wanted everything to look like and where I wanted everything to be, but I decided that I wanted to continue that fa la la sentiment over on this side just because you have these cute little guy that's just singing his heart out. And I figured that would be kind of the best place to put it, is right here next to my little snowman. Now, once I have that set, it's fairly easy to kind of come in and piece everything together. So no worries, we'll just go ahead and speed up this process, but you'll still be able to see where I place everything and start gluing everything down. And this is really the fun part for me, because I can imagine these little snowmen creating their own little music and singing out in the snow. But I love how this kind of turned out. The blending in the background did quite a bit. It's not a lot of color, but just enough to kind of create that division for the snowdrift. Okay, so now that we've got everything set in place, we can start going in and kind of filling in some of this blank area. And I figured the little la la sentiment would kind of go, so it does the fa la 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 all the way through. Okay, so now we're ready to create our folds in this little panel, okay? We're gonna start with the center and we're gonna create a valley fold. The other two folds will create mountain folds. I'm gonna take my bone folder and crease this out to make sure that it's nice and well burnished. Now, the one thing that you do have to remember is that when you make any of these folds, you fold it in one direction and then the other. That helps the paper move, and then it also creates that memory, so that way as it starts folding and using the mechanics, it moves very nicely. There you go. All right, we're ready to move on to our actual mechanism of the pop twist. This particular piece does have score lines that you're going to fold against, that you can see here. And you're going to fold in one direction, and then you'll fold it back in the other just to get that paper moving. Again, you'll do it on the other side. And once you've gone back and forth with this, you'll see that you also have some horizontal score lines here. Now, I kind of call this the frog. What we're going to do is we're going to pinch right along these score lines that you have here. And we're going to try and kind of make it into a little frog leg, as I like to call it. So the easiest way to do that is kind of create a little triangle, fold it down along that score line, and pinch. Okay. Now we're going to repeat this process on the other side. And as you can see, it's starting to form the little frog legs. Just make sure that you crease these very well right along that score line, because otherwise it's not going to work properly. You just have to make sure that you press down on these. Sometimes I'll go ahead and take a boning knife and just crease that and burnish it. So that depends on your like, but there you go. That is your pop twist mechanism. Now, one thing is you're going to want to open and close this to make sure that it works. So this way you're also training the paper what to do. All right, this is now ready to be inserted into our card. You'll notice that it does have a little hole there in the center. I'm going to line this up along the score line of the card. This little hole allows me to see that crease, so I'm making sure that I am centered with that crease. It's very important that your mechanism is right on that line. While holding this down, you can just simply check to make sure that your placement is accurate by folding down that one of the two sides if you'd like. Once you have everything centered right where you want it, with one hand, you're going to hold down one of the sides. This is going to expose the triangle on the back side for you, and this is where you're going to add your glue, just on this triangle. If you place the glue anywhere else, your mechanism will not work. Once again, I like utilizing glue rather than tape for this because I want to make sure that it creates a very strong bond with the card. Once the first triangle is done, you'll fold over on the other side and complete that one as well. Anytime you're working with mechanisms of this type, I find that utilizing glue just really, that bond is much stronger, especially because there's going to be a lot of movement. And you just want to make sure you press down, see if that kind of works right there. Awesome. Close it up and then set it aside so that it sets exactly where you want it. All right, first off, I'm going to add this flourish die cut from Poppy Stamps. It is a Merry Christmas sentiment. I die cut a beautiful glitter paper that's kind of in this, I want to say aqua color, and it's got a lot of shine. I'm just going to add that as my sentiment to the card. Now this is not very strong. It is a regular paper that has glitter, and it's called PVC paper because it does have a plastic coating on it. So you'll probably have to run this through the machine several times. But let's go ahead and add some glue and adhere this down. Now, as I work the glue onto this, I'm only doing it to the first portion of it, the Merry Christmas, and that's going to help me get it where I want it, just because it's very thin and delicate. So I'm going to lift this over and add glue to the back as I go. This makes the work that much easier. Okay, once I have everything where I want it, I'm just going to press down firmly and make sure that it's set. But let's have a look. I mean, look at how beautiful that shine is on that glitter. Let's go ahead and make sure that this all kind of fits where it's supposed to go and that mechanism is working. We're good to go. Time to add our images. Now you're going to notice that this is going to sit flush right up against this little flap here. This particular tab, if you'll notice, has a little score line. What's going to happen is that's exactly where that first card will fold over. As you can see, it's going to line up flush right with the top of that mechanism that you see here. Okay. So what's going to happen is you're going to add glue just to that little square of the actual mechanism. Do not go over that little fold line, either on the side or on the top. Again, you want to make sure that you add enough glue so that it gives a proper and sturdy hold. All right, now just fold over that panel and make sure that it is stuck down to those little tabs. Press down firmly to make sure that your panel is going to move. Now, I like squeezing them from both sides just to make sure that everything is where it needs to be. Once everything is nice and dry, we're going to go ahead and help the mechanism along for the first couple of times. This will train the paper how to move when you open and fold your card. Make sure you press down so that it knows where it needs to be. Now to add some of the final touches to this card, I brought in some crinkle binding, and this is one of my favorite decorations. As you have probably seen in some of my videos, I do use it quite a bit, and I love the kind of effect that it has as far as crinkle binding. It's not just your standard ribbon. So I'm going to use 1/8 of an inch double-sided tape in order to adhere this down, and this is the easy part. If only I can find the end of my double-sided tape. I'm just going to lay a strip down right where the change between the paper and the stamped images are. And then I'm going to remove that covering and simply pleat that ribbon right on top of my card. Now, just in case you haven't noticed, this for me is the fun part. I really do enjoy actually doing this. Once we have our pleating done, I'm going to add a few more embellishments just because I feel the need that it requires some bling. Okay, so here I have some aqua colored sequins that I'm going to be using. I think this kind of fits the color theme that we're going with. And since I already have some pink crinkle binding, I figured that I should go with some aqua sequins and kind of draw that color all the way across. Now what I'm doing is I'm taking the largest of the aqua sequins, the flat ones that is, and I am placing them onto some small zots, and then I'm going to go ahead and sporadically place them on the card. All right, here is our card all finished up with all the bling on the front, the crinkle binding that we have down the center, and our pop twist element. Look at that, it moves so well. Now, I just wanted to give you a little rundown on the scene because we have this little one that is just singing his heart out with the fa la la la, but is severely off key, and you can tell because these guys are just kind of cracking up at him. And finally, you have your Merry Christmas sentiment. Thank you for joining us on this 1,000 subscribe and 9 years on YouTube for Honest Stampage, Min's channel. Now, if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. I'll be linking details for the card in the description below, as well as the next link to the hop. So head on over. For more videos and tutorials like these, don't forget to subscribe. Visit the blog for more information at www.heartcraftpaper.com. Thanks for watching Heartcraft Paper.